Listen, I never thought I wanted to move to Florida, but here's why I did. And if you hate winters as much as I do, this video is for you. Every time summer ended in Michigan and then winter would start rolling in, I'd get super depressed because the sun goes away behind these giant sheets of gray clouds and I don't see it again for like 4 months. I finally had enough and I told my wife, that's it. We're moving to the Sunshine City, baby. And she said,
okay, cool.
I'm gonna share the 3 critical mistakes most people make when they move to Florida. And if you get any of these 3 wrong, it's over. Don't even go. I'm Grant Warrington. I'm a real estate investor in paradise, and here's my story. The first thing is, don't f it up. I didn't get to choose the city or state I was born in, but I did get to choose the state I wanted to move to, and Florida is the absolute best option. But I knew it's a big state and I didn't know a lot about it. You got the Gulf side on the west, you got the Atlantic side on the east, you got the Panhandle up top in the north, you got Central Florida, and you have Miami down in the south. And believe it or not, all these different locations have different climates, different people, and a different pace of life. One of my biggest goals was I wanted to wear flip-flops and shorts all year round. So I knew that moving to the Panhandle wasn't an option because it still gets pretty cold up there in the winters. Now I heard a lot about Miami, obviously, right? All of us have. And I thought that'd be an awesome place to move to, but it's pretty freaking expensive, man. And we don't have Miami kind of money. And we also don't really love that fast-paced lifestyle. So we cross that off the list. The middle of the state, or Orlando, that was an option too that we thought about, but talking more and more to people we knew down there, they're like, man, Orlando is way too hot. It's in the center of the state and you don't get a breeze, right? From off the Gulf or the Atlantic. And a big reason I crossed Orlando off the list fast was because I didn't want to move to a state with all this water around it and these beautiful beaches and we live in the center and don't see it. I've always been drawn to water since I was a little kid, so I knew that was not an option. So we were pretty focused on the Gulf side. You get a great breeze, beautiful sunset, the water's a little calmer than the Atlantic side, and it's a slower pace of life. Now here's the funny thing about people that move to Florida. Most Midwesterners, which is what I am, move to the Gulf side or the western side of the state. And most people from the East Coast or New York move to the east side or the Atlantic side of the state. It may be because I-75 starts in Michigan, my old state, and runs all the way down to Florida, so all those Midwesterners jump on it and follow it to the west coast. For the Atlantic side, they got I-95, and that starts all the way up in Maine, travels all the way down the east coast, and ends up in Miami. So I think everybody just follows their designated freeways and ends up where they end up. Now, if you're like me and you're not used to seeing the sun every day, this is gonna trip you out a little bit. The sun is out every single day. So when we first moved here, one of our friends told us, listen, you're gonna see the sun and you're gonna think, oh, I need to go outside and do something and take advantage of this beautiful day. Pretty soon, you'll realize they're all beautiful days. So that's awesome. It's one of the best parts about living down here. The other thing is you always feel like you're on vacation down here. I live in St. Petersburg, Florida, and you got the great restaurants, the warm weather, the beaches, the sunsets. It's hard to get motivated sometimes to work because you feel you're on a permanent vacation. But I'll tell you what, when my wife and I take a walk at night and we walk these brick-lined streets and the sun's setting and the wind's blowing through the palm trees, man, we truly are in paradise. Number 2 is don't buy a house. Now this was tough for us because it went against everything we've ever known as real estate investors. But we didn't know Florida, we didn't know the area, and I'll tell you a funny story. Here's how we found the city we wanted to move to. I called my buddy up and I'm like, hey man, we want to move to Florida, but we know nothing about it. What's a cool city? And he goes,
I live in St. Pete. It's awesome. You should move here.
And I said, all right, cool. I told my wife and she's like,
Yeah, that sounds great. We should probably go there first, though, before we start telling people.
and that's how it happened. So maybe put a little more thought into it than I did. But we were really attracted to the city life. We looked up St. Pete and we started really studying it and we realized, hey, this is a real walkable city. So we wanted to live downtown and we rented in one of the best apartment buildings in downtown St. Pete. It had a pool on the 8th floor, hot tub, a gym, pool table, ping pong table, and a bunch of other amenities. It was amazing. We ended up selling my car because we didn't need it, and we loved the fact that we could walk outside of the building and we had restaurants, coffee shops, and all kinds of entertainment right at our fingertips. We were also a 10-minute walk from the pier, which is downtown St. Pete, and a 20-minute drive or 35 minutes on public transportation to St. Pete Beach. So we didn't know anything about the neighborhoods in St. Pete. That's why we rented, but we did know this. We didn't want to live in a flood zone, and we also didn't want to live in an evacuation zone. The city marks these zones from A, B, C, D, and E. A being the first to evacuate and on down the line. The closer you live to the center of the city, more than likely you're not in a flood zone or an evac zone. So renting gave us the ability to figure this out, drive through some neighborhoods, and see what we liked. We weren't rushed to buy a house, and it was the best decision we made. And if you're moving to St. Pete, here's your biggest dilemma. Do you want to live at the beach or do you want to live downtown? We love the beach, but I'll be honest with you, we don't spend 6 hours a day laying on a beach. We love the idea of the walkability of downtown and all that had to offer. So we knew downtown was the spot for us. The third thing you do not want to do when you move to Florida, and probably the most critical, is don't forget about expenses. Here's one of the biggest mistakes homeowners make in Florida when they buy their home. And usually it's not their fault. They probably got a shitty realtor that doesn't understand this himself. When you buy a home in Florida, or really any state for that matter, you gotta understand the property taxes that you're seeing on the MLS or on Zillow are not the property taxes you're going to be paying. That's just a snapshot into the past and tells you what the old owner was paying. Because let's say the owner bought the house 40 years ago and his taxes are capped and they just move up incrementally. But when you buy the house at a much higher price, the taxes uncap and they catch up, and they could double. You need to be prepared for this expense. Ask your realtor about it and don't let this catch you off guard, because this can turn a $3,500 a year tax bill into a $7,000 tax bill pretty quick. And if you're not prepared and you can't afford it, you're in big trouble. Now, I'm not a realtor. I'm just trying to help you out because I like making videos about real estate in Florida, and I got nothing else to do. Now, if you're buying a condo down here, you need to be extra cautious because there was a tragedy at the Surfside condos a few years ago where the building collapsed and 98 people were killed, unfortunately. That tragedy has created new regulations where every condo 3 stories and above and 30 years or older need to be inspected for structural damage, and the condo owners have to pay for it. So this new assessment, along with rising insurance costs, are causing condos to be not very desirable right now in Florida. But here's a tip. You need to keep an eye on this because you're buying into paradise. These condos may have issues now, and you may be able to buy them at a reduced price. And at some point in the future, the value's just gonna explode again. So now let's talk about that other little problem, insurance. So if you've watched the news or you live in Florida, you know insurance is a major problem down here right now. But how bad really is it? So I already told you what we did was we bought in a neighborhood that is out of a flood zone and out of an evacuation zone. So those were 2 positive things going for us right off the bat. The other thing we did was we bought a house that was already completely rehabbed and the roof still had a 10-year lifespan on it. Life of a roof is a major deal down here in Florida. If you only got a few years left, they're gonna make you replace it. So we bought a 1,200 square foot home. We paid $440,000 for it, and our insurance is $2,800 a month. It's really not as bad as we thought it would be. And compared to the insurance where you live, and let me know in the comments if yours is higher or lower. And by the way, this magical neighborhood that we found and we love is called Central Oak Park. It runs from 49th Street to the west to 34th Street to the east, 13th Avenue North, down to 5th Avenue South. We got brick-lined streets, palm trees, no flood zone, and no evacuation zone. We also don't have an HOA here, which is great, so it doesn't cost us any extra money to live in this neighborhood. The only other problem is, because there's no HOA, some people might let their grass grow a little bit longer, and you have to deal with that. But this is an up-and-coming neighborhood in St. Petersburg, Florida, and you can still find homes in the $300,000 to $500,000 price point. And that's pretty cheap for St. Pete. If you've had enough like I did and you're ready to get the hell out of your state, Florida's the best place to be. It took me 9 months to move from decision to lease signing, and I know you can do it too. If you can't act that fast, that's fine. Make a 5-year plan and stick to it. If you love this video, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like this video. This lets YouTube know that you thought this video was valuable and they'll share it with other people. I got another video right here I know you're gonna love. Click here and I'll see you in this video.